So we have presentation here. Okay, so if you want to come over to this side, just do one click to make sure it works. Perfect. Okay, now go back to the first. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Alex. Yay!
Morning, everybody. I don't know who of you knows FON. I guess it helps that we're in Spain. It's a Spanish company. Ooh. Okay, I need to find a spot where I'm not totally... Okay, what I was asked to do is give you a little overview, not of FON, but of what the Wi-Fi industry looks like from our perspective. So I have a presentation here, but mostly I would like you to interrupt me if you have questions. It's a perspective on Wi-Fi, how we look at it, and what we think is gonna change over the next years. So basically, to start with, that's the first thing. Wi-Fi is a really old technology. Right? It's not something that's been around for a couple of years. In technology space, it's 1997. What they did is they created the specs for the Wi-Fi, and it was called 802.11. And in the last 20 years, everything that happened is create different specs. Okay? But when Wi-Fi first started and when it's today, technically it's not such a big difference. There's differences in how a bit faster, a bit more coordination, and a bit more devices that you can connect, but it's not really a huge difference in terms of what it does, which is it connects devices. When Wi-Fi started, and when we started 12 years ago, that was before iPhones. Now it looks at, it has different use case. So when you look at it, actually you can't even, let me see, no, you can't even see this. This 802.11.9 something, 11, and now it's called AC or AI or AX. I have four things here. I don't know what, it's bad, no? Can you try to, I take it off? Hello? No, I don't know. Okay. Don't scream. Look, four things basically that I want to share with you on our perspective. One is 5G. This is terrible. Do you have a microphone? Do you have a mic? Sorry, I can't listen to myself. No. 1, 2? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so basically let's start with why is there even a reason for Wi-Fi to be in the future? People ask me, the hardest challenge I have with investors sometimes who don't understand the space of Wi-Fi, they come and say, look, there's 5G, mobile operators are going to spend billions of dollars on 5G, nobody's going to need Wi-Fi. I have a different perspective, obviously, and the main reason why I have a different perspective is because of myself, no? Because of video. When we look at what's driving investments into mobile infrastructure, it's only for video. If all we did was sending emails, read some web pages, and maybe send some WhatsApps, the networks that we have currently are good enough. Okay? And then I wouldn't need 5G, I wouldn't need 4G. I'd actually be pretty fine with current investments. Services like this here, services like Netflix account for 30% of the data traffic in networks in the US. Everything, 30%. And that's at a penetration of very few users still pay for Netflix or already pay for Netflix and Prime and I don't know what. That's going to completely change. Okay? We're absolutely certain that video, it's on one hand generated content by companies like Netflix, but also user-generated content. Video is going to kill the networks, right? That's why we talk about 5G in general. That gentleman here is the CEO of Deutsche Telekom. He says it's going to be 300 to, how much? 300 to 500 billion that operators are going to spend alone in Europe on 5G networks. I'm not sure. That's the market cap of the telcos in Europe. Deutsche Telekom heads the way, 66 billion. Telefonica is somewhere, well, I think it's more. I think Telefonica is 40-some billion, whatever. The reality is, nobody's going to spend 300 to 500 billion in Europe because they can't afford it. Who's going to give them the money to spend 300 billion into a 5G network? Right? There's no way The only companies that could afford it are the ones that are on the right side. There's only Google here, which is the big guys. They have the market cap. No investors are going to give 300 to 500 billion to mobile operators to say, build a network of 5G, full coverage, and make the same money as you make right now. Okay? So I don't think there's going to be build out of 5G, obviously. I don't think it's going to be an independent build out. It's going to be part of, quite honestly, going back to this 5G, nobody really knows what it is on top of it. Right? It's going to be an integration of Wi-Fi and mobile technologies. What we're working on as FON is how can you make the Wi-Fi experience and the mobile experience better integrated. Okay? So when you go into a hotspot or you go into Wi-Fi, that you connect automatically, that your speed is not slower because sometimes mobile is faster, that you sometimes do seamless handover between hotspots, and you make it as much as a mobile experience as possible. Right? And it's hard. Okay? It's technically hard, but believe me, that's going to be one of the major things of Wi-Fi in the next years. Here's just another data point of how much data there will be via Wi-Fi. I'm not the only one believing that. If people say, well, it grows by eight times and it actually more than 60% is going to go via Wi-Fi. 5G is great in Europe, okay? And great in the US, and good in Japan, great in Japan and in China probably, but there's a whole part of the planet that is not going to have 5G rolled out. It's going to be Wi-Fi, okay? We have projects in India and Africa and parts of the world where people really, really, really need internet coverage and internet access, and the only way to get access to the internet is via either crappy mobile connection, which are very expensive, or with Wi-Fi. There's a ton of business models evolving in these parts of the world where they are close to the phone model, where people basically start reselling capacity on Wi-Fi. Right? This here is an example of an Indian company. What they do is they put a Wi-Fi hotspot there. People come, pay in cash in rupees. Right? Wi-Fi that way, you pay in cash in rupees and say, could I please connect to the network? Right? I was specifically asked not to talk too much about phone. Okay, so this is obviously very close to our model of facilitating access to people. We do trials in those markets on a little bit different approach, but it is helping people to make money by reselling capacity and basically bridge the gap that you have of very poor people not being able to afford mobile internet and not being able to afford a broadband line. Right? If you bridge that and basically give them tools that they can buy a broadband line and then resell capacity to people, you have business models, and we're not the only ones. You probably know that Facebook, Google, even Microsoft, a lot of the large companies are undertaking a lot of efforts to get internet connectivity in those markets, and Wi-Fi is the way to go there. I'm rushing a little bit through the pages because I want to be available for questions. Another big trend that we see on the Wi-Fi part is we use Wi-Fi at home and in the office and in the planes. Right? That's where we use it all the time. In office, it's actually working relatively well if you have assistant administrator. Right? If somebody comes and sets it up for you and does all the tough stuff and gives you the password, gives you the secure access and I don't know what, it's over-engineered. Quite honestly, it's completely over-engineered. What we see in office space is basically the whole office, the things that we do daily, sending emails, sharing documents, following up with customers. Whatever we do daily, we do it already in the cloud, right? We have data in Gmail, we have data in Dropbox, we have data in Salesforce, we have data in SAP, and everything that is not locally stored, that's in the cloud. You don't even know where it is. Systems administrators are cool with that because basically it's large companies that take care of it. Well, on Wi-Fi, they still have that belief that they need to do that locally and you get your security certificate, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to change. We're very certain that the experience of Wi-Fi in offices will be, first of all, offices go wireless. Right? Forget about cabling. It's not going to happen. You're going to walk around with your laptop. You're going to walk around with your phone. you will onboard your devices without having to ask any person, right? When you join the company, you get your email, and the same way you're going to connect to the internet, right? There's no separate setup needed for that. And it's going to be a completely different approach to basically how the company themselves takes care of providing internet connectivity. I was asked a little bit about what Wi-Fi analytics. I mean, Wi-Fi analytics has been around not since the very beginning, but for the last 10 years, people really started to do more stuff with Wi-Fi on analytics. There's one part that maybe we need to know about from a technical perspective. Wi-Fi, first, apart from being an unlicensed spectrum, it not only connects you to the internet, it also constantly looks who's around, right? Because in order to connect somebody, I need to say, hey, who's here? And you want to connect to me. So a Wi-Fi router, any Wi-Fi router, with a little software upgrade, is looking for devices around, okay? And is looking who's here. And usually it's mobile phones who are here, but it could be anything, right? Here's an example of when you position 3 or 4 Wi-Fi, you need at least 3 for GPS positioning, not GPS, for Wi-Fi positioning. Once you put 3 routers and you put the coordinates in there of where they're positioned, you know exactly how devices move around. I'm actually quite certain that they have this here as well in the conference, to more or less know how people walk around, right? So we all have a phone, we walk around with the phone. If the Wi-Fi is turned on, even if you don't connect to it, it talks to the Wi-Fi router, and you can know how people move around here. That's pretty useful for a lot of use cases, right? I mean, this is being used for supermarkets to basically say where are the hot areas, for shopping centers to define the streams, for hotels to define the locations. Tons of use cases that you can put on top of that, okay? Just by knowing how the devices move around. Obviously, you can make it a little bit smarter. You can connect the device, okay, the MAC address of the phone, and I know there's a phone and there's 100 phones. If you log in with your social media or whichever login you want to use, you can also know who the person is. Okay? That's where it becomes a little bit more sensitive. Right? In theory, by linking the MAC address to the Facebook account, you'd have to do that one time, and I could connect your device to the person wherever you go, or wherever I have the same information. All right? We do think that it's powerful. Right? It's a good thing that you can do that, but you need to be a little bit cautious about that for privacy reasons, because you might not know that by you logging in, you're actually being followed on an individual basis. We don't do that. There is use cases where it makes sense, but it's a little bit cautious. What we do is, I showed you here an example of in Japan. We have the largest Wi-Fi network, not only in a lot of European countries. We have 20 million hotspots. We have 300,000 in Japan. And Japan is very open for how to handle analytics in Wi-Fi. So they basically did a regulation of here are the rules of how you can collect the data, how you can use it, and how you can analyze it. I find that a little bit more progressive than other markets where they don't say anything, but a little bit worried about it. So what we've done in Japan is we've basically converted these routers to listening of what's going on. And to get the numbers right, we have 300,000 access points. We detect on a daily basis 27 million devices. I mean, 300,000 hotspots, 27 million devices on a daily basis. We have 158 million devices detected. There's 120 million people in Japan. I mean, we almost captured everybody, okay? On a very small sample size of 300,000 routers. We could do a lot more there. It gives you an idea of how much power there is. We know where devices go from to. We see them leaving in Kyoto, arriving in Tokyo. We see congested areas. You have a lot of information. I'm not saying that we found use cases to really, we haven't even looked for that, to monetize that, but there's a lot of information available that you can capture from that. And business models of startups, actually, to see how to put services on top of that and to leverage that. Last trend, which is my personal favor, who has Wi-Fi at home? Who doesn't have Wi-Fi at home? We don't really need Wi-Fi to surf the internet on our mobile devices anymore. But it's hard to imagine that there's a house without Wi-Fi. And why is that? Well, because it's a little bit faster and your laptop connects to it and it helps you a little bit better. But really, it's not just that. It's the houses are going to be connected. Everything will be connected. Right? It's actually not even a good example. They're not just laptops. It's everything. We're talking about cameras, lights, of course the tablets, washing machine, you name it. Okay, I pretty much test every single device that they get out with Wi-Fi. So my house is a bit of a mess. It actually really is a bit of a mess, and it doesn't work very well. But there's almost not a single technical gadget that I could think of that I have in my house that is not going to be connected to Wi-Fi. Right? Very uncoordinated, very many different providers, so it's a bit of a mess. But I cannot imagine a household without Wi-Fi. We have currently, that's the US, there's 10 devices per household. It's going to be 50. 50 devices per household, right? Again, speakers, you name it, everything. So if your Wi-Fi doesn't work today at home, get ready. Because the complication of Wi-Fi is that we're competing, since the technology is, it's kind of unmanaged. More devices means more devices competing for same bandwidth, but also for the same processing power of the device. So you will not have less issues in your house, you'll have more issues in your house. And not just by you putting more devices. If you live in the city, your damn neighbor put something in there, your Wi-Fi is going to get worse. Right? That's law of physics, because there's only limited spectrum, and if it competes with each other, we're going to have more issues. Right? Now, still, Wi-Fi works better than it did a couple of years ago. But just to give you an idea, and that's actually really interesting, and that's where Phone is working on, because we work with operators today. 30% of all phone calls at an operator are related to Wi-Fi. Right? Customer calls, says, I have a problem with my internet. Turn off your Wi-Fi, turn off your router. Do you see the light? Is it red? Is it green? It takes 5 minutes. Okay? So operators are completely blind to problems that happen in the house, and we're helping them with understanding the problems. Users until now, what they do with problems, they go to MediaMarkt. All of you, probably many, the more technical, they go to MediaMarkt or Corte Inglés or lo que sea. Go there, buy a repeater, say, now I have a great Wi-Fi coverage. A bit of a challenge, right? And you see, maybe it's better, maybe not. It's not the easiest thing to do to fix your home Wi-Fi. Thank God, Google. Google came out with an amazing solution on the consumer basis where they said, hey, we give you a solution that fixes your Wi-Fi at home, all right? And it's 3 routers, you plug them in, they create a coverage, they create a good user experience, perfect. Amazon. Amazon is the next one, they launched in the last Amazon product presentation, they launched like 20 different products for the home, for the smart home, okay? Yes, they are all connected through Wi-Fi because they need to get access to the internet. 20, including a microwave, okay? Speakers, lights, smart plug, whatever, you name it, okay? Now, that's worrying for the operators, right? The operators obviously are like, damn, not only did I lose, I just heard my friend, Mass Mobile, right? The operators today on the mobile phone, all they do is they provide the connectivity, right? And it's Google and Apple who provides the apps on top, Apple not even. In the home, it's still not so clear, right? In the home, operators are still trying to provide you the connectivity, and after the connectivity, provide you as well a way to actually have a good experience. We think, and we know these operators are trying to engage as well in that space and actually become providers of a good experience. And yes, and that comes back to the last thing, security. I skipped that for sake of time. Privacy. I've shown you what you can do with Wi-Fi, right? And quite honestly, I'm sometimes scared myself in terms of what information you can get. If you think of Google and Amazon getting into the home with a bunch of devices, with a bunch of sensors, with really knowing what's going on, I think there's going to be use cases that are very helpful for the user, for our day-to-day life, right? It actually make our day-to-day life easier. You come in and you detect motion and lights go on. But there will be a discussion about privacy, not about privacy specifically related to Wi-Fi. We have a lot of tools and means to know a lot, but it has to be related to the discussion of privacy in general, of how much do we want our information to be anonymized or actually available to companies to monetize on top of that. It's a balance, right? And Wi-Fi is not going to go a different path than anything else there when it comes to the internet. I have a big 0 at my screen. Are there any questions? Because he told me he's going to shove me out there when it's done. Any questions? No? I'll just, I'm going, I'm leaving. Well, nothing, anyhow. My name is Alex Puriger. I'm CEO of FON. If you have any questions, I have an email, alex@fon.com, or I'm also here. We're an international company, but we consider ourselves very much Spanish. I find this amazing here because it's actually growing every year, and I'm very happy to see so many startups. Great, thank you.